The Easter Passover break gives lawmakers a needed break from political fatigue in this tough budget year. And a new SayfieReview PowerPlay poll shows that CFO Sink and Attorney General Bill McCollum would be in a dead heat for governor next year. All of that on PowerPlay this week with our guests, Brittany Benner, reporter for Gannett TV, and Joe Follick of the New York Times Florida newspapers. Okay, it's the mid-season break for Easter Passover for the Florida legislature. Do they need this breather? And at this point, who's winning and who's losing?
Absolutely, they need this breather. I think we should have probably seen a little bit more action with the budget so far, but I think this will help some of the lawmakers to kind of regroup. We only have a couple of committee meetings left, obviously. Winning, I think that we have Senator Fasano with his double-dipping legislation, but on the losing end of that, of course, we're going to see all those former state employees, people who want to jump back into the system. They're going to really lose out on that money, that extra money that they won't be able to tap into if this becomes law.
But the average taxpayer probably not tearing up for them. Joe, your own view of the break?
I think the break comes a little too early. These guys have been tiptoeing around the Capitol.
Easter and Passover are when they are.
Yeah, I think the break for these guys comes at a bad time. These guys are tiptoeing around like there's a sleeping baby in the Capitol. Nobody wants to make any big news. Nobody wants to knock heads yet. And usually the break comes when pressure is at a tipping point. And it's just not there yet. So I think it's going to be a very tough 4 weeks.
But what kind of friction are you noticing among lawmakers and lobbyists and all in a year when there's no money and everyone's in a bad mood and frankly there's no good news stories?
I think the biggest friction is in the House right now, where you're seeing some disagreements over how to pass even the smallest fee increase bills. The Senate, as usual, has kind of gotten their act together in a bipartisan way and pushed together a lot of tax legislation this week. The House, I don't think they're singing off the same page right now.
If we can stick on that friction issue for just a minute, I think we're also seeing a lot of contention with the Seminole Gaming Compact. Obviously, you have key players like the governor who want to pass something, if anything, and then there's a lot of resistance to do any action from the House members on that.
Well, isn't it just a big public relations ploy, these fee increases, a tax by any other name?
A fee increase is a tax by any other name, and it's one of the more embarrassing things to watch up here, to watch these guys say a $1.25 per ton fee on trash is a fee. It's not a tax at all. Come on.
But it's even going to cost you more to be a working family going out fishing for your dinner, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think that you're going to see a lot of the tax burden being shifted to the people themselves. Although there is absolutely no support to raise any property taxes, we're going to see fees in other areas that you haven't before.
Well, SayfieReview and PowerPlay conducted our first public opinion poll with Mason-Dixon, and the numbers are out. If Charlie Crist runs for the U.S. Senate, 67% of Floridians would consider voting for him. And in a race for governor next year, if it were Alex Sink, the CFO, versus A.G. McCollum, a virtual dead heat. Reactions?
I think, first of all, yes, Charlie Crist can do just about anything he wants to right now. He is favored very much so by Floridians across the board. So if he wanted to run for that Senate seat, he has a good shot. But you can't rule out the fact that he is right now a big fish in a small pond. And although Florida is no small pond, he is the key player in the state. His family is also here. But is it a good time for him to step out and go on the national scale, especially when things in Florida aren't so good right now? That might be a good move. Bottom line is he could do just about anything he wants.
And what about this mythical race next year if it's Sink versus McCollum at this point if the election were held?
I'm not sure mythical is the word I would use at all. I was just thinking back to the big names we've had in governors' races for the past 2 decades plus: Graham, Childs, Bush, Crist. Sink, McCollum, I don't know. It's going to be a totally interesting dynamic if that's the race next year.
Well, a lot of people aren't agreeing. It's a dead heat right now. Let's go to your respective power play of the week.
I'm going to say it's the villains of Carl Hiaasen novels. A growth management bill that eases concurrency goes through last week. Utilities get nuclear energy included in the Go Green plan. Workers' comp fees, cap on that looks like it's ready to go back in. It was a good week for the nefarious business cabal in the Capitol.
State Senator Ted Deutsch with his tobacco tax. He released a more aggressive form of his $1 per pack cigarette user fee, again, a tax in disguise. But the bottom line is this shows that he wants to pass something, if anything, in regards to an extra fee for cigarettes. And I think we're going to see a lot of resemblance to last year's developmental disabilities bill, where at the last few minutes of session they were arguing and they eventually passed something.
Well, I'm going to use the host prerogative, and my power play of the week is Steve McNamara, the respected academic at Florida State University, who's also got political street cred. He's the front runner by all accounts for chancellor of the state university system. But how good a job is that in a tough budget year? We don't know, but he's the front runner. Brittany Benner, Joe Follick, thank you very much. For the latest political news, go to the SayfieReview, and we'll see you next time on PowerPlay.